Hello everyone, welcome to my channel EduLine. In this video, I have brought to you the critical study of the world famous short story Old Man at the Bridge by the famous American writer Ernest Hemingway. Now in this video, we will try and analyze the different aspects of that particular story, and also we will try to understand it. We all know that this particular story, Old Man at the Bridge, is in the class 9 syllabus of ICSE. So before we get started with the video, I would once again like to request you to subscribe my channel for getting more such relevant and interesting videos, and share and like the video among your friends as much as possible. So let's get started. Before we move into the different aspects of the short story, it's quite necessary for us to know something about the author Ernest Miller Hemingway. So Ernest Miller Hemingway, or who is popularly known as Ernest Hemingway, he was born in the year 1899 and he died in the year 1961. Now, he was a writer, a novelist, a short story writer, and a famous journalist. Now, as a writer, he is well known for his famous theory of, that is, he called iceberg theory. This is a particular style of writing which is noted by his economical and understated technique, and it is because of this iceberg theory he became famous as a writer. And as a successful literary career, he was awarded several awards, first of which was the Pulitzer Award, which is given in the USA in the field of literature, and the most renowned award, he was a Nobel laureate and won the Nobel Prize in the year 1954. If we want to talk about some of his famous works, they include In Our Time, again we have The Sun Also Rises, and the third one we have here, A Farewell to Arms. He also wrote many other stories apart from this. Now let's begin with different aspects of the story, The Old Man at the Bridge by Ernest Hemingway. Before, for the first time, or at the first, we first want to discuss Old Man at the Bridge, and here we will try to present some important happenings or some important aspects of the story. So the author of the story is Ernest Hemingway, we all know, and the location of the story, Old Man at the Bridge, is in Spain. So although Ernest Hemingway, he was an American by birth, but still the story actually takes us back to Spain, and the story we all know that it's set in the background, or at the background of the Spanish Civil War of 1938. Now the story Old Man at the Bridge, for the first time it was published on May 4, 1938, and it was published in the famous Ken magazine in the USA. And the type, if we want to talk about the literary genre of the particular story, it is a short story. Now, if we want to talk about the overview of the short story, it's a very thumbnail, a very short summary in that sense I want to give you. That is, you can see here, actually when the story begins, we see that it is an Easter Sunday, a very auspicious mood in terms of the a very auspicious occasion in terms of the Christian norms. So it is an Easter Sunday, and it is a warlike situation where the fascist enemies, they have made much advance towards the on the other side of the river Ebro, and the author the narrator, who was a war correspondent, his duty was to inspect the bridgehead and collect information as to how far the enemies have advanced. Now it was the narrator who for the first time noticed the old man sitting on the roadside near a pontoon bridge over the river. Now when he observed the old man sitting there, he told the old man that it was not a safe place for him, and he also advised him to move off. And through their conversation, the narrator got to know from the old man that he came from his native town of San Carlos, and there he was taking care of his animals before he was forced to leave his town. Now ultimately, once again the author urges the old man to leave the place and move to safety, but the old man was too exhausted to go any further. So however, at the end, the narrator had to leave him there. Now if we want to talk about the setting and the background of the story, but the first thing we have to remember here, that the particular story Old Man at the Bridge, it is set at the background of the Spanish Civil War in 1938. So it is set in the Spanish Civil War of 1938. The Spanish Civil War was fought between the fascist supporters, the supporters of fascism or the supporters of the fascist theory. So it was fought between the fascist supporters and the Spanish Republicans. And if we want to know further about it, the story actually Old Man at the Bridge, it captures a particular event, it captures a particular incident where when the fascist enemies or the fascist soldiers they had advanced on the other bank of river Ebro, and the war is about to begin, or the war is due to begin when the story begins. And the narrator, as a war correspondent, his duty is to inspect the bridgehead and to collect information about how far the enemies had advanced and report it to the Republicans. So at this point of time, the story gets started. Another thing we need to mention here, that the story begins on an Easter Sunday stopover. We all know Easter is really an auspicious occasion, an auspicious moment as far as Christianity is concerned, which is believed to be the resurrection of the soul of our Savior Jesus. So on that particular Easter Sunday, the story has its setting. Now, talking about the beginning and style of the story, Old Man at the Bridge, we have to remember that the story begins in the morning of an Easter Sunday near a pontoon bridge, where trucks, carts, men, women, children and soldiers are seen crossing the bridge hurriedly. And right at that moment, the narrator, who was a war correspondent, he observed the old man. So that old man was seen sitting exhausted on the roadside by the narrator. Now, as far as the style of the short story is concerned, Hemingway has proved his mastery over his style. Actually, the story captures a small incident or a small event, but it is credit to his great art of storytelling and his great art of a successful technique of telling the story, which ultimately makes a particular short story a great work of art, a great work of narrative art. Now, it is quite important for us to learn about some of the themes of the story Old Man at the Bridge. The very first theme we want to talk about, that is life and war. War is something which is dehumanizing. War makes everything uncertain. Whenever war begins, life becomes uncertain. So war victimizes especially the old and the innocent. Here the old man, who is old, who is not associated with war, even who doesn't have any politics, even the old man, despite the fact that he is not supporter of neither of the two parties fighting the war, still he is victimized by the war, or still he is left to suffer in that occasion. So life and war, these are the two prominent themes of the particular story. Second theme, if we want to talk about, that is alienation or separation. Throughout the course of the story, we come to know that the old man, he doesn't have any family and he is neglected. He is just thrown outside the world around himself. The old man has no family and has nowhere to go. So the only thing he had, they were his animals. He repeatedly goes on telling throughout the course of the story that he was taking care of his animals. So his family consisted of only that cat, 2 goats and 8 pigeons and nothing else. Next thing, if we want to talk about, that is religion and morality. So the reference to the Easter Sunday on which that particular story is set, so it shows us that religion is also another prominent theme of the story, and morality in terms of the narrator's attitude. Although the narrator was a war correspondent, he had some kind of a feeling regarding the old man's current situation. He wished that the old man could move to safety, because that place was not at all safe for him. So he had some sort of feeling about him. So a kind of a morality was there. So it was a morality from a human being, a feeling of a human being for another human being. So religion and morality, two other important themes of the story. And the fourth one we need to know here, it is love for animals and for homeland. The old man, he had really great love for his animals. That is why he goes on repeatedly telling that he was taking care of animals and he had to leave them there. So he is quite anxious about his animals, and he also loved his little lab. He also loved his town, San Carlos, from where he actually came. So love for animals and love for homeland, these are also two prominent themes of the story Old Man at the Bridge. Now let's learn about the characters. Let's learn about something about the characters. So we all know there are only two characters in the story, the old man and the narrator. So let's begin with the old man. Now the old man, if we want to talk about the old man is actually, he is the central figure in the story, and he is also the title character, the old man at the bridge. So the old man is the central character in the story, and the entire happenings of the short story revolves around him. Now, if we want to learn more about him, he is 76 years old. The old man is 76, and he had actually come from his native town of San Carlos, and he had covered some distance of almost 12 kilometers on foot and has reached that particular place near the Fountain Bridge. And as he could not walk any further, so he sat down there to take some rest. Now, again, if we want to describe the physical appearance of the old man, we must say that he has a grey dusty face and has black dusty clothes, and he had on steel rimmed spectacles. And at the same time, the old man, when he was in his native town San Carlos, he was taking care of his animals, which only comprised his family. So his animals were his only family. He was totally neglected, and his family consisted of a cat, 2 goats, and 4 pairs of pigeons. And next thing we need to know about the old man is that he does not know politics. When the author asks, or when the narrator asks the old man, what politics are you? He plainly declares that I have no politics, which suggests that the old man is too old to have politics. He is too old to join politics, so he is not interested in the politics, and even that he is not at all aware of the present situation, that the war is due to begin. So he is without politics. And the last thing we have to bear it in mind, that is that he is unhappy and anxious. The old man is unhappy and anxious. Why? Because he had to leave his animals in his place, in his native town. So when he was forced to leave the town, he could not desire this, but it was not his heart's desire. So he was forced against his will. He had to leave his animals there. That is why he is very much unhappy and very much anxious that he had to leave his hometown and his animals behind. Now, if we move on to learn about the character of the narrator in the story, we must see that the narrator is a war correspondent. A war correspondent, actually he was a news reporter from the side of the Republicans. His duty was to inspect the bridgehead and to find out and fetch information as to how far the enemies have advanced on the other side of the river Ebro. So he was on his duty, and while he was on his duty, he found that old man sitting on the roadside near the Fountain Bridge, and seeing the old man in such a condition, he tried to strike up a conversation with him. And it was during this conversation the narrator come to know that the old man actually he had come from a far away town, that is San Carlos, and not only that, the old man he had no family, and he had been taking care of his animals there when he was told to leave the town. Now, some way or the other, the narrator had some sort of sympathy for him, and he became a bit concerned. He shared a bit feelings. He had a bit feelings about the old man because of the moral teaching, because of the morality he had within him. So out of these feelings, the narrator was a bit concerned about the old man's safety. So he advised him more than once in the story to move to a safe place, because that place was not at all safe for him, and that place was vulnerable to be attacked by the enemies at any time. But when he found that the old man actually was too tired to go and he could not work, so he had no other option but to leave the old man there. Now, if we want to talk about the irony, the use of irony in the story, irony, if you want to know, irony is actually a literary device which denotes the difference between two things, difference between what is said and what is meant. So exactly, irony refers to the opposite position of two things, what is said and what is meant. Here in that particular story, the author has used mainly situational irony. Situational irony is a kind of irony. It is actually, situational irony refers to the discrepancy or difference between actually what we expect and what it actually turned out to be. So here the story begins on a particular Easter Sunday stopover. We all know that Easter is actually an auspicious or a holy program or a holy grand occasion for the Christians, because it is believed that it is on Easter, on the third day of crucifixion. After 3 days of crucifixion of Jesus, the soul of Jesus came out from his grave and went to heaven. So this resurrection of the soul is celebrated by the Christian as Easter. So it was a very auspicious occasion which signifies hope and joy. But if we think about the situation of the old man, there is no joy, no hope in his life. The war is about to begin, and in that war-like situation, the old man is left to suffer and die in that situation. So there is a kind of a situational irony in that sense. Now again, there is also irony if we think about that the old man was taking care of his animals when he was in his native town San Carlos. But if we think about the present, at present when he is stranded near that particular place on the roadside near the fountain bridge, there is no one to take care of him. So there is also an irony here. Now let's consider some of the key words which will really help us to understand the text. The first one we have here, a fountain bridge. A fountain bridge, you all know, it's a floating bridge. It's a kind of a floating bridge we have here. Second one we have a staggered. Staggered means to walk unsteadily, to walk very unsteadily. Next we have artillery. Artillery, actually it is the use of heavy guns in war. Here a branch of the army which have or which uses heavy guns in warfare, that is called artillery. Next we have here, that is Barcelona. Barcelona, we all know it's a famous city in Spain. Again we have San Carlos. San Carlos is also the native town of the old man in the story. Then we have Tortosa. Tortosa, we have a city in the Tarragona province of France. So in the Tarragona province of France, Tortosa is capital of that particular province in Spain. Next we have urged. Urged is to try to persuade someone to do something. That is the meaning of the word urged. And the last one we have here, that is swayed. Swayed means to moving from one side to the another, or to move from side to side. I hope these aspects of the video we have discussed here regarding the story Old Man at the Bridge will be helpful to you, and I hope it will ultimately be beneficial for your studies. So I would suggest you to take help from your book, go through the text, and for further queries just you can comment me in the comment box in my YouTube channel. Once again, I would like to request you to subscribe my channel.